Harpsichords were the most popular and beautiful instruments, keyboard instruments of even the 16th, 17th, 18th century, and even up till 1790 or something. 1780 is still heyday of the English harpsichord. There's a huge difference between the two Shudis. So the 1744, you can look at it as a traditional harpsichord with one keyboard and two registers, as I explained the last time. This is 30 years later, and it has a fantastic amount of possibilities. It's very possible that it's a competition with the upcoming Fortepiano. And it's even so bad that there's apparently a letter of Broadwood of 1803 of a client who wants to order a piano, and he wants to trade in his harpsichord, and the letter of Broadwood is saying he can't trade it in because nobody wants them anymore. So the times and the taste changes all the time, of course. And in the second half of the 18th century, people were demanding more possibilities of expressing dynamics or emotion, and this instrument is the answer on that, for who could afford it, of course. This harpsichord has 4 registers, and that means it has 4 rows of jacks. So one rack of these jacks we call a register. So there are 3 here standing on one key, and there's 1 register here. So we see 2 keyboards, and each keyboard has a lot of jacks standing on the keys. So we hear 3 different strings being struck. If I push the key very slowly, you hear them one by one after each other. So you hear them all 3 after each other. But of course, if you play normally, then you always hear them at the same time. The upper keyboard, as you can see, moves 2 jacks. And what you can do is you can shift them to the right or the left to switch them on or off. This is the nasal, and it plugs the string very close to the nut here. It has this nasal sound. So if I switch the nasal off and the other one on, then it's a much warmer sound. So it all depends on where you plug the string. And then you have all these knobs and pedals giving a possibility to change the sound while you're playing, which is unique for harpsichords, because harpsichords you always played, and if you wanted to change the sound you have to, with your hands, change knobs, but this has pedals which you can change the sound while you're playing. So one of the very special things of this harpsichord is that it has a Venetian swell, which is a kind of an invention of Shudi. And it means the whole instrument is closed now, so you can't see any strings, but if you play, you can open this Venetian swell. A lot of Haydn's music in this period is written saying forte or piano, and people think it's written for a piano, but it isn't. It is written for this instrument, which exactly he had. There are a few famous owners of these instruments. Haydn, this one is of 1775. Haydn had one in Vienna from the same year, 1775. But also Frederic the Great had 3 of these instruments, and Maria Theresia of Austria had one of them. And of course, Frederic the Great in Sanssouci had 3, where Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach played them. And even it seems to be known that in the Hofburg in Vienna, Mozart played on one of these at the palace. And The painter Gainsborough had one of these, but of course they were very, very expensive instruments. And nowadays still 50 Shudis exist, or still known. I think he made some 1100 or something. I must say, in most cases I don't know where instruments come from. There are 20 people in between and nobody knows where it was at which point. But this instrument, we know from the book, the Bulge book about harpsichords, that this was made for Lady Stavordale, the Countess of Ilchester, here she is, with her 2 daughters. And this is an etching after a portrait by Joshua Reynolds, so it's not unimportant. And she got it, it was delivered at her house, Red Lynch House, on the 10th of August in 1775. It's wonderful to know this. In most cases we don't know anything, but it's wonderful. And we know that in the 20th century it was owned by George Malcolm, who was a famous harpsichordist in the first half of the 20th century. And in 1958 it was bought by Leni van Manen van der Lee in Holland, 1958. And she has had it for 60 years before I bought it in 2018. It was in magnificent condition, really unimaginable. And even something very special with it, it had the original cover with it, 1775. Can you imagine? A leather cover, wool-lined leather cover. But something very terrible happened. The former owner, Ms. van der Lee, had the cover and gave it to a restorer through an in-between person, and this guy had a fire in his house and the cover got burned. That's really terrible. I mean, a cover from 1775 is even more rare than a harpsichord like this. Around 1765, Johannes Zumpe invents a tiny little square piano, which makes it possible to play loud and soft, and that's a huge success immediately. In the next episode, I'll show you some of the possibilities of these instruments.